So, let's talk about where we really are in history. Because we are at the end of an epoch, the beginning of another epoch. And we're going to go A, B, C. It's as easy as A, B, C. The A epoch is when people said, Amen. And that lasted from, let's say, the year 0 CE to about 1650. But it really, so Amen, somebody says, you're sad about losing a loved one. Well, you'll meet them again someday, in heaven someday. And the response to that is, Amen. With the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution, we entered B. It's as easy as A, B, C. B is BS. And we've been in this kind of a developing BS atheist epoch for about 250 years, 1750 to 2000. And what's happening now is that we're entering C. C stands for observe, to see, right? Because now it is an observable fact that when people near the moment of their own death, sometimes some people have a glimpse of what is, they say, is self-evident as a greater reality. So the self-evident greater reality, the SEGR, is something that is scientifically predictable, testable, observable, and quantifiable. Okay? Now, by that I mean, you take 1,000 people who, in a clinical setting, have had their hearts stop. Okay? For 10 seconds. And now we have these advanced resuscitation abilities. So this is happening more and more, right? And you ask them, and it's a subjective question, tell us what happened. Most of them, because this is already being done, most of them say, I was knocked out, and then I woke up in the hospital later. So most people say nothing, right? Some people have this tunnel of light experience. They meet grandma. They see a city of light. And there's this thing they say, which different people say it in different ways, but it was subjectively self-evident as a greater reality, right? Self-evident. Now that's an interesting thing to think about, because if there is an experience within human life, right? Because the people, anybody still talking to you, they weren't really dead. Because dead, I'm defining dead as you don't come back and say anything after you're dead. So they got very, very close to death. And there's also minor digression, the idea that, well, it's only going to last a couple seconds. That, objectively in the clock in the operating room, let's say it lasts 30 seconds, 15 seconds. As a subjective experience, it can last much longer. So as we might experience it, right, we have this opportunity, or at least a quantifiable chance of experiencing a self-evident, greater reality with the length of time it subjectively lasts being an unknown, essentially, of an unknown length of time. So, this is an observable part of life now. This is happening and happening. And back when it was just Swedenborg, see, that was just one guy saying it. Because I get people saying to me sometimes, well, it doesn't matter just because some guy said it. And correct, that is true. When it was just one guy saying it, you can't, that is not quantifiable. But when you have let's say 50 people out of 1,000 saying it, well, that's a number. That's 5%. And if I have a 5% chance of having something happen to me, that something is real in some way or other. For example, I have a 0.00005% chance of getting mesothelioma. And the only way I can have a chance of getting it, experiencing it, having it, is if it is real in some way. So the little cop-out that people say, well, it's only subjectively real. And that's what I'm agreeing with. I'm like saying, yeah, it's only subjectively real, just like my life here is only subjectively real. Right? So it is as real as this, at least. And in fact, if you talk to people who've actually had it, they say it is more real and it makes this world look unreal or less real or like a shadow world, you know. And so this is now an observable part of life. So if I say 5% of people see a city of light, right? That is not a belief, okay? That is what I mean. So I can talk about Jesus, I can talk about heaven, I can talk about the afterlife in a way that is analytical because I'm analyzing this data, okay? Now, let me just point this out. So 1,000 people are asked this question, and we count what they say. So if 95% of them don't say anything, right, and 5% of them say something, we count that. So when somebody says it doesn't count just because somebody said it, I have to point out that, in fact, that is what we are counting, okay? We are counting what people say. People recount their experience, they speak all these words, you put them in a database, you add it up, you divide by the number of words there are, and you come up with a percentage, right? We are counting what people say. So to respond to the person who says, it doesn't count just because someone said it, I want to be clear that that is what we are counting. Okay, so what we're doing is you enter into this world where we look at the numbers, we count the amounts of time certain ideas and experiences come up. We are counting those numbers. So that is how I can talk about the afterlife in a rational and analytical way, right? So that's the point. I should just cut to here, but I don't know if I will. The point is, how is it I'm talking about the afterlife and Jesus and God in a rational, analytical way? And the answer is because I am analyzing this data. Okay, we've been resuscitating people since the 70s. We ask them what it was like, and this is what they say. And you analyze that data just like anything else. So I can say with confidence, because I've read a lot of these, it's a whole publishing, there was a whole publishing boom in this subject for a while. And I can say with confidence, more than 1% of 1,000 people who die in this neighborhood will visit Jesus. And I can say Jesus in a rational analytical sense as part of this data collected in a clinical setting. Right? Anyway. But then to skip ahead, okay, that's background. Because what you really want to know is how to apply this to your everyday life. Right. So how do we apply it to our everyday life? And how does this kind of knowledge and this framework affect the way you live? Does it help you live or does it hinder you from living? Because what I'm saying is that when you wrap your head around this idea, it becomes something you have and can use, like an app, I guess is the word these days. But anyway, we'll get on to that next time, applying it to our daily lives.